Hi guys, it's Splash and Crash here, back with another video, and in today's video I'm going to be going over a ton of trade ideas that I think could and probably should potentially happen during this off season. And one thing I actually wanted to say is thank you guys for all of the support on my other trade videos. Already the Celtics video is by far the best video I've ever had. It's not even close. It's over 600 views right now. And the Warriors video, which I uploaded yesterday, currently is sitting at 70 views, which is easily the second most on my channel. So thank you so much for all the support on those videos. And yeah, one more thing I wanted to say is all of these trades are canon to each other. So like the same player won't be in two trades, and that also includes the trades in the other three videos, the Celtics, Pacers, and Warriors videos. So go watch those first. At the end of all of these videos, I'm going to do an adjusted power rankings and to rank where these players would be after all of these trades. Anyways, let's get started. The first trade I want to talk about has to do with the thumbnail, and it is Derrick Rose to the Lakers. So the Lakers received Derrick Rose to be that third guy behind LeBron and Anthony Davis, because next year the league is going to be a lot tougher with the Warriors and Nets coming back into play. So the Lakers are going to need to get better to have a better chance at repeating. And to pull this trade off, they have to give up Kyle Kuzma, who is just a bench player for them, but he would probably have a ton of value to the Pistons because they get value for the expiring contract in Derrick Rose. And Kyle Kuzma, until this year, looked like he was going to be a future All-Star, but this year he came off the bench, so we didn't really get to see what he was about alongside LeBron and Anthony Davis. But yeah, in the past 2 years before this, he was really good, and the Pistons, they just get a good young player who has all-star potential. They also get a first-round pick. And yeah, so I think both teams would definitely make this trade. And I think a lot of people would agree. This trade was rumored to happen at the trade deadline. It just didn't end up happening. But now that D Rose is on an expiring deal, I think this is extremely likely that this trade occurs in the offseason. The next one is really a signing and a trade that just go together. It's not a sign and trade, but the signing and the trade both do go together. So I put them together. So first what happens is the Miami Heat use some of that cap space they have to sign Montrezl Harrell. And yeah, I think he'd fit in extremely well with the Heat organization. He just a ton of energy. He would just work really hard, just like the rest of the Heat players, and he also wouldn't mind coming off the bench and just helping that already deep Heat team become that much more deep. Also, he's had a lot of chemistry problems with the Clippers, and yeah, so I think a Montrezl Harrell to the Heat signing would make sense. This would give Bam a much better backup than Myers Leonard and or Kelly Olynyk. So I think the Heat would definitely do this if they got the chance. You might be wondering, why would the Heat do this? Because then they wouldn't have enough cap to sign Giannis or another huge free agent. But to account for that, I think the Heat then trade Andre Iguodala and a first-round pick to the Orlando Magic for Evan Fournier, who would be an upgrade offensively to Andre Iguodala, and he's also on contract for one less year. So the Heat, he would be an expiring contract next year, so the Heat would have a max contract to sign Giannis. And yeah, so the Heat would still get that super team, but now they would add on Montrezl Harrell, and if Evan Fournier agrees, they could re-sign Evan Fournier and get another really good two guard. to pair alongside the rest of that Heat super team. So this next trade is a trade rumor that's been going around a lot, but it's a little bit different than the one that's been going around. So it's a Buddy Hield to the Sixers trade, but instead of just giving up either Al Horford or Josh Richardson, they're giving up both. So they give up only one pick, and it's a late first-round pick. The Sixers also give up 2 seconds, and they give up Josh Richardson. On top of that, they give up Al Horford, who at this point I think actually has negative value to the Sixers. And if they didn't put him in this trade, I think the Kings would ask for another first-round pick, I don't think the Sixers would want Al Horford over a first-round pick. And on the Kings side of this, they still get a replacement wing for Buddy Hield, and they also get that big they need because while Al Horford struggled a lot at the power forward position, I think he's still a really good center, and I think he can still be a really good center. So I think he'll play much better with the Kings. Obviously not at an all-star level due to his age, but I think he'll still be a really good center. Definitely not worth his contract. But he could help them get to a playoff position. And he could also help mentor Marvin Bagley, who has been struggling a lot in the past 2 years with injury, and he's been having a tough time in the NBA. But yeah, so hopefully Al Horford and Josh Richardson can help push the Kings into a playoff position. And as for the Sixers, they get off of the Al Horford contract, and they get an upgrade with Josh Richardson into Buddy Hield. This also allows them to put Ben Simmons at the small forward position so he can play a bit more off ball, and this moves Tobias Harris to power forward and also pushes Shake Milton into the starting lineup. And I think a lineup of Shake Milton, Buddy Hield, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid would work much better than what they had last year. The next trade is a ridiculous trade. A lot of you are probably going to wonder why the Magic would do this trade at all, and some Rockets fans might not like this trade, but let me explain. So the Rockets give up Russell Westbrook, and the Magic give up Al-Farouq Aminu, Nikola Vucevic, Aaron Gordon, and a lottery-protected 2021 first-round pick. So yeah, this trade is crazy. So first of all, let's talk about the Rockets side. So Russell Westbrook didn't work out at all in Houston. And in the playoffs, he was just terrible. So they get off of Westbrook, and they get back Nikola Vucevic, who is a good shooting big man and would fit in well next to James Harden. And they get Aaron Gordon, who is super athletic and would be a good small ball center that is great at defense and could potentially turn into a borderline all-star in a change of scenery. They also get Al-Farouq Aminu, who is a 3-and-D 6'8" power forward who fits in really well with the Houston Rockets team. And they get another pick. They just get a 2021 lottery-protected first-round pick to sweeten the pot a little and to make up for some of the, to kind of make up for those picks they gave up for Russell Westbrook in the CP3 Russell Westbrook trade. And the Magic side of this is probably the side that you guys don't understand, and that is the Magic get Westbrook. So this trade would so for the Magic, Jonathan Isaac is most likely going to miss all of next year, and so they need to get something to generate fan interest. So Westbrook, even though he's not going to make them a winning team, he's going to just put on a show every single night, pull in a bunch of ticket revenue, and just generate a lot of fan interest. He's also, I think, could be a good mentor to Markelle Fultz, and overall, I think he'd just bring a lot of intensity to this Magic team. just make them a more fun team to watch. And yeah, so this would also allow them to move Jonathan Isaac to the power forward position once he comes back and start Mo Bamba at center. Next year, I think they're going to put Chuma Okeke at small forward. And if they make that Evan Fournier trade that I showed you earlier, they could put Iggy at the power forward and either Fultz or Westbrook at the 2 guard. So yeah, this next trade is between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Detroit Pistons. So this really just makes the Timberwolves roster better because Blake Griffin could either be a decent starting player or he could be an all-star next year. We don't really know at this moment. And Jarrett Culver hasn't really been that good for them. And on the Detroit Pistons side of things, they get an expiring contract in James Johnson. And they just get a young player in return for Blake Griffin's huge contract. And yeah, Jarrett Culver still has a bit of potential, even though he had a rough rookie season. And so for the Timberwolves, right now it looks like they're either going to trade the pick or take LaMelo Ball. If they don't trade the pick, I think they should actually take Anthony Edwards over LaMelo Ball because he's just a bit better defensively. But the choice is theirs, and so if they take LaMelo Ball, which it looks like they will at this moment, they're going to have a lineup of LaMelo Ball at the 1, D'Lo at the 2, and at the 3, a lot of people would probably go with Josh Okogie, but before the NBA shut down, Malik Beasley was popping off. He was going insane for the Timberwolves, and not enough people are talking about it, so I think they should actually run Malik Beasley at the 3 over Josh Okogie, just because I think he might have a breakout year next year, and he might play like the way he was playing right before the NBA shut down. And then they'd have Blake Griffin at the 4 and Cat at the 5. And yeah, if everything works out, that team would probably be a playoff team, maybe even a borderline contending team in next year's season. And for the Pistons, if they also make a Derrick Rose trade, this would just completely clear out their lineup. Just have no players that could really help them win games. And even though the NBA changed the way the lottery works, and it's harder to tank for a top pick, I think the Pistons should still tank because even if they don't get a top 3 pick, if they're the worst team, they're guaranteed a top 5 pick, and the 2021 draft is super stacked, so they could still get a really good, or even superstar level player at pick 5 or 4, and they could just keep trying to pile on assets, because right now they have none. So I think they should try to capitalize on Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose, just clear up all the cap space, and just give them a clean slate to restart their franchise. This next trade is a pretty big one. It's a trade between the San Antonio Spurs and the Portland Trailblazers. So the Spurs get Trevor Ariza, Zach Collins, Nasir Little, and 2 first-round picks, and the Blazers get LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan. So on the Spurs side of this, both LaMarcus and DeMar need to go. They need to start a rebuild, and neither of them, they need to get value for them before they leave in free agency next year, because they're definitely not re-signing. So this trade gives an expiring contract in Trevor Ariza, who's just there for the salaries to work. They also get Zach Collins and Nasir Little, who are 2 decent young players, and they get 2 first-round picks. If you think this isn't enough, keep in mind that DeMar and LaMarcus are expiring contracts that are old and starting to regress, and just they don't have much value anymore. So this trade would just give them a bit of value and help them reset their entire team. And on the Blazer side of this, Zach Collins hasn't really been panning out for them, and Nasir Little they don't really need Nasir Little. And right now they need to just improve their team as much as they can to help Damian Lillard win a championship, or at least get close, because his prime is going to end in a few years, and like they need to capitalize on his prime right now. So this would add 2 borderline all-star level players. So then they would have a lineup of Damian Lillard, C.J. McCollum, DeMar DeRozan, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Yusuf Nurkic, with Gary Trent, Rodney Hood, and Carmelo Anthony coming off the bench, as well as, if they re-sign Hassan Whiteside, him coming off the bench. And I know it wouldn't help their defense get any better, but if they strike out on Victor Oladipo and Drew Holiday, I think this is a trade they can make to just help their team get better in any way they can. Also, I forgot to mention, this brings LaMarcus Aldridge back to Portland, and from what I've heard, he has shown interest in returning there, like in the past few years. So this next trade for the Bucks, I don't think they should do it unless they can't get Chris Paul, because I think they should heavily pursue Chris Paul. He would be a really good fit next to Giannis. But if they can't get Chris Paul, I think they just have to improve their team in any way they can. And I think like at that point they'd have to take a risk, which John Wall is. He's most likely not going to be as good as he used to be, but if they don't get Chris Paul, they're kind of in a bad place because they don't have the assets to trade for any other star. But John Wall's value is lowered right now, so I think they should go after him. In this trade, they give up Eric Bledsoe, who did pretty bad in the playoffs, and then they just give up George Hill and Ersan Ilyasova, who are 2 really old bench players. The Wizards, they don't really get anything of value back. They just get off of the John Wall contract. And for the Bucks, I know he can't shoot, but Eric Bledsoe couldn't either. This just like, if this gamble works out, then the Bucks just get another star next to Giannis. But this is a huge gamble because John Wall's injury was so bad that it's pretty unlikely that he'll be the same player when he comes back. But you never know. There is an off chance, and if they strike out on Chris Paul, which I think they will, because there's another team that I think is going to give up, that'll just give up more assets than the Bucks for Chris Paul. I think the Bucks just have to just go for whoever's available, because they have one chance left to make Giannis happy. So this next trade is a 3-team trade, and there's also a free agency signing. Just like with the Montrezl Harrell signing, I didn't really have any place to put it, so I just included it with the trade. So first, the Mavericks, they sign Danilo Gallinari. They should only do this if they believe that they can't get Giannis, but if they think they can get Giannis, I think they should definitely go for him. But yeah, so if they don't think they can get Giannis, I think they should sign Danilo Gallinari and make this trade. So the Mavericks are going to give up Tim Hardaway Jr., Dwight Powell, and 2 first-round picks, and they receive J.J. Redick and Karis LeVert. The Pelicans give up Drew Holiday, and they receive Tim Hardaway, Dwight Powell, Jarrett Allen, and the 2 first-round picks from the Mavs. The Nets give up Karis LeVert, and also the Pelicans give up J.J. Redick, along with Drew Holiday. And the Nets give up Jarrett Allen and Karis LeVert and receive Drew Holiday. So let's break this trade down. The Mavericks get another offensive player. I know this doesn't help the Mavericks defense, I think they should go after Drew Holiday, but in this trade I have him going to the Nets or Victor Oladipo. But if they can't get him, they could at least make their offense better. They don't really need Dwight Powell or Tim Hardaway, and those picks are going to be late picks. So this would allow them to get another good scoring option in Danilo Gallinari, who can just space the floor out at the power forward or small forward positions. They also get Karis LeVert, who has been really good in the who was really good in the bubble. And just a secondary ball handler next to Luka, which was one of the things they needed. And they get JJ Redick, who's just another floor spacer, who have proven to be really good alongside Luka, as we saw with Seth Curry. As Luka can set them up really well for open opportunities. And yeah, so for the Pelicans, it just gives them value for Drew Holiday. They get back Tim Hardaway, who's an expiring deal, Dwight Powell, who's just there for the salary reasons, as well as Jarrett Allen, who's a really good young center, and 2 first-round picks. They also have to give up JJ Redick, who's just an expiring deal and doesn't really fit in well with their timeline. For the Nets, they improve their defense. They also get Jarrett Allen off the team, which, personally, I don't think they should do that, but there was chemistry problems between him and Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and DeAndre Jordan, because Kyrie Irving and KD wanted DJ to start over him, and I don't think Jarrett Allen would want, that would just be horrible for the chemistry. So Karis LeVert isn't really that good of a fit, because they already have so much shot creation. So Drew Holiday would just improve their defense a lot. KD, a lot of the players really like Drew Holiday. They all believe that he's the best defender in the league, or a lot of them do, especially Kevin Durant, who was talking about how great of a defender Drew Holiday was on JJ Redick's podcast. So yeah, I think getting Drew Holiday would just make Kyrie and KD really happy, which is what they need to do right now. Next, we have a few Knicks trades. So, there's a few rumors going around recently that the Knicks, they want to become a playoff team again. And yeah, so, the Knicks have been bad for so long. I know that these moves aren't going to make them a championship team. That's obvious, but these moves are at least going to, help maybe fix their culture up a bit, so they can, in the future, just attract more free agency people. Because right now, the Knicks have a horrible culture. They don't have, anything going for them. So, yeah, reestablish a good culture in New York. The first trade is a Chris Paul trade. Now, right off the bat, yes, this is an overpay, but it's not as big of an overpay as it seems. If you look at this trade, the Knicks are going to have to overpay a bit, because the offer that's going around is Kevin Knox and a pick, and that's not enough value, considering the Bucks are heavily pursuing Chris Paul, and that they're going to be willing to give up Eric Bledsoe, Dante DiVincenzo, and a pick. So the Knicks are going to have to give up a bit. But so yeah, right off the bat, Alfred Payton and Bobby Portis, they don't have any value to the Knicks really. They're just in there for salary cap reasons. And then you have Kevin Knox and Frank Ntilikina. And I know a lot of Knicks fans like Frank Ntilikina, but you're getting Chris Paul in return, so I think you will be okay with that. And Kevin Knox, he really regressed this past year. OKC does have a better development staff, so yeah. And then the picks. So 2 of these picks are second-round picks via Charlotte. And the last pick, it is a first-round pick, yes, but it's a very late first-round pick. It's pick 27. So on the Thunder side of this, they get another first-round pick. They get 2 seconds for draft capital. They also get 2 decent young players and 2 expiring contracts. So yeah, they get more value than they should for Chris Paul. But for the Knicks, I think they're going to have to overpay just a bit for Chris Paul. Another reason why I think the Knicks should make this trade is because I think Chris Paul can elevate their current 3 best players, which are RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson could really play a lot like DeAndre Jordan played when Chris Paul was on the Lob City Clippers. Then Julius Randle, with a really good point guard next to him, I think he could get back to that borderline all-star level he was on when he was on when he was on the Pelicans, or maybe even better. And then just RJ Barrett would just have a lot of pressure taken off him, and he could just play much more off ball. And Chris Paul could help mentor him and help him become a better playmaker and shot creator. This next trade is another trade with the OKC Thunder, and it's a trade for Dennis Schroeder. It is Taj Gibson and Reggie Bullock, along with a 2021 second-round pick via Detroit, along with a 2023 Dallas first, and the Knicks' own first in 2025. So Taj Gibson and Reggie Bullock are just here for salary reasons, so completely disregard them from the trade. So yeah, the Knicks once again give up 2 picks that aren't their own, one of which is a second-round pick, and the Dallas pick is going to be a late first, and then their 2025 first is going to be the first pick in both of these trades that they actually own. And yeah, so once again, this helps the Knicks get better while not really giving up much, things of value to them. We know how well Dennis Schroeder can work next to Chris Paul. And yeah, we saw that in OKC. And this would also allow them to run a few more 3-guard lineups, just with RJ Barrett instead of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And now for the OKC Thunder side of this, they get 2 first-round picks and a second for Dennis Schroeder, who is an expiring contract. Because, yeah, they're probably going to have to pay Dennis Schroeder because he's been playing really well. And so this would clear up a lot more cap for them, because they could just let Taj Gibson and Reggie Bullock walk without losing any value. And it would just give them even more draft capital, especially after that Chris Paul trade. And yeah, so this could jumpstart a full-on rebuild for the Thunder. After this, they could sign and trade Danilo Gallinari, or they could just let him walk, and they could trade Steven Adams. And then they'll just get a ton of assets to build around Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and they'll be set up perfectly for a really successful rebuild. Finally, we have our last Knicks trade. And yeah, so it's a trade between the Phoenix Suns and the New York Knicks. It's Wayne Ellington, Dennis Smith Jr., Ignas Brazdeikis, a 2021 New York Knicks first-round pick for Kelly Oubre. So, yeah. So, the Knicks obviously make this because after those first 2 trades, they are now looking to make the playoffs. And Kelly Oubre, I think, will be on the market in this trade. They still don't have to give up pick 8, so they can still get a player there. And Dennis Smith hasn't really been that good for New York. They don't really have any value of Wayne Ellington. And Ignas Brazdeikis is just on the bench. And then that pick, that pick does have value, but Kelly Oubre can really help them fill that small forward position. And for the Suns, Kelly Oubre doesn't really have a role on this team anymore because, as we saw in the bubble, Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson is just a much more effective forward combination. They went 8-0 without Kelly Oubre. So yeah, I think this trade would help both teams out. And you might be wondering, since I have 3 Knicks trades, why didn't I make an entire New York Knicks video? I just didn't want to do an entire Knicks. I just wanted to do a huge video with all of my other trade ideas. And there just happened to be 3 New York Knicks trades that went well together. Next, we have the final trade of the video. And once again, it's a trade plus a signing. So yeah, you might have heard that Kawhi, it was recently leaked that Kawhi wants a point guard next to him. And I'm saying that all of these trades, I think they could happen together because if you notice, there are no repeating players in any of my trade videos or this video. So, yeah, I think all of these trades, so I might actually be doing a power rankings video, what if all these trades happen, but I'll talk about that when I release that video, but yeah. So, as you might have noticed, all of like the really good guards that could be traded have already been traded in this universe. So, what are the Clippers going to do to get Kawhi that playmaking guard? Well, I think they could go after Rajon Rondo, who recently declined his player option with the Lakers. You might be wondering, why would Rondo leave the Lakers? Even if he did decline the player option, it's just a much better situation than the Clippers. He just won a championship. Well, I think it's because the Clippers can afford to pay him $10 million on a one-year deal. Yeah, $10 million. No team is going to even pay him close to that. It is obviously an overpay for a player this old, but like the Clippers, they have 1 year, one chance to get Kawhi and PG a championship. If they don't do that, they're both walking. They're both most likely walking. So, like, desperate times call for desperate measures, and this is definitely a desperate measure. And on top of that, so yeah, as you might have seen earlier in this video, I think Montrezl Harrell was actually going to leave the Clippers, and if he does that, Zubac is good, but he's not a championship center. And like they need to upgrade. I think they would need to upgrade Zubac, especially we saw in the playoffs that they didn't really have anyone to stop Jokic, because Zubac, while he's good, he's not like good enough to even slow down Jokic. Well, while this player isn't like, while Steven Adams, who I think they should trade for, isn't like going to completely stop Jokic, he's going to probably do a much better job than Zubac, considering he's a better player and he just has more experience. So yeah, I think the Thunder and Clippers could come to an agreement with a trade of Steven Adams for Zubac and Landry Shamet. So the Thunder, this would officially, they would officially have completely blown up their team from last year. You saw all of the trades in this video with the Thunder, the Chris Paul trade, the Dennis Schroeder trade, and then finally this Steven Adams trade. They get a ton of assets for all of those players. And from the Steven Adams trade, like they get Zubac, who is a nice young center on a much cheaper deal. And like he's never really played true starter minutes. I know he started for the Clippers, but Montrezl Harrell was getting a lot more minutes than him. So they could use him as like their starter and see what he's really about. They also get another like good young shooter in Landry Shamet, who they could play alongside Shea and Lou Dort next year. And yeah, so the Thunder would have a ton of assets after all of these trades, and they would probably set up one of like the best rebuilds. It would set up like a chance for the Thunder to have one of the most successful, if not the most successful rebuild of all time. With like they would have so many picks and pick swaps and just so much assets to trade. And on top of that, they already have Shea, and they would have a few young pieces in Lou Dort, Landry Shamet, and Zubac around Shea. It would just be just a really good situation for the Thunder. And for the Clippers, I know Steven Adams is on a big deal, but he is expiring. So even though, like, if this didn't work out, they would have absolutely no picks at all, or like just anything going for them for like the next 5 or 6 years. At least they would have a ton of cap space. So if they were somehow able to like pull out a deal to get some talent on that roster after they lost everything, they would at least have some cap space to build on from that. So yeah, that's it for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also, don't forget to comment down below like what you think of all these trades, what other trades you think could happen this offseason. And be sure to check out my other 3 trade videos. I made a Warriors, Pacers, and Celtics video. I think all these trades, I made sure all these trades didn't have anything overlapping, except a few picks in the Pacers video. But so all of these trades could coexist, and I think I'm going to do a power rankings video, what if all these trades would happen, what my power rankings would be after that. So yeah, that's it. So bye.